Fine.
I just love Ian McKellen's acting here. That little eye twitch. What's up, guys? It's John from Movie Space, bringing you a bit of a special video this time. As many of you might know already, but some might not, a YouTuber named Nando V Movies has brought a group of YouTube creators together around a project called One X-cellent Scene. The idea is to celebrate the culmination of the movie X-Men franchise, which is essentially coming to an end this year in its current incarnation, with the release of The New Mutants, the final film created under 20th Century Fox before it was acquired by Disney. You know, in Disney's continual quest to rule the world. Side note, that poor New Mutants movie, like, oh my goodness. This movie has been plagued by so many delays, so much production issues, and I know there's currently a release date for August, but who really knows if we'll ever actually see it? And I guess more importantly, if anyone will actually care. But anyways, back to the point. What was super cool about this project is that they have opened it up to where any creator can get their video added to the playlist, which I think is just so awesome. So I was super interested in this opportunity to fondly reflect on the past 20 years. 20 years of X-Men movies. The good, the bad, and the ugly. And talk about a scene that I found to be excellent. Now, there are many, many amazing scenes to pick from, and if you check out the YouTube playlist, you'll come across tons of videos, video essays on a lot of the scenes that I would intuitively pick as some of the best in the series, and some of my personal favorites. However, for my video, I wanted to pick a scene that flies a little under the radar, and one that holds a very special place in my heart. That scene is a scene from the very first X-Men movie, and it's called Mind Over Metal. And this is One X-cellent Scene. Now, I have to actually admit here that I was very late to the X-Men movie party. You see, the X-Men franchise was never really one that I got into growing up. I mean, I was only 9 when the first one came out, but it was always just off my radar, and never as big as the likes of Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, Marvel, or some of the other franchises in my life. However, in 2011, X-Men First Class piqued my interest. I can't really remember why. Maybe it was because it was a fresh take on the franchise and was getting some positive reviews. But whatever it was, I got hooked by the awesomeness of that movie. I mean, that movie is so great, and I could talk about that forever, and I probably will be talking about it in the future. But anyways, I got super hooked by that movie, and from then on, I wanted to watch the rest of the films to catch up. So, when I finally watched 2000's X-Men, the very first X-Men movie released, the movie was already over a decade old, and, I mean, I could definitely tell. Yeah, there are some aspects of that movie that just don't hold up.
Do you know what happens to a toad when it's struck by lightning? The same thing that happens to everything else.
But I was watching it partly because I was just curious to see how this franchise got started, and if it really was as good as it seemed from afar. I mean, by that time, it had already lasted 11 years and 5 movies. But it was this exact scene, a scene that had Magneto, Professor X, and a bunch of cops at a standoff, that officially got me hooked into the story, and ultimately the franchise. And that made me say, okay, wow, that was awesome, and I can see why this franchise became a hit. So the scene picks up right after Magneto and his motley crew have just captured Rogue at a police station, and they exit the station to find a bunch of cops are outside, weapons drawn, waiting for them. Magneto instantly, without hesitation, just makes the cops look pathetic by smashing cars into each other, pulling all their guns away, and turning them against the cops. Magneto has a very complex relationship with guns throughout the franchise, doesn't he?
You Homo sapiens and your guns.
This is where Charles, in a nearby car, controls Magneto's henchman. You know, Sabretooth. Well, no, not that Sabretooth. Well, actually, yes, that Sabretooth, because they're apparently actually the same character, supposedly. Anyways, back to the point. Charles controls him to choke Magneto and to try to get him to stop. Now, I love so much about this scene, and I'll call out a few things in particular. Firstly, we learn so much about Magneto and Charles and their characters, arguably the most important main characters in the entire series. You learn how Magneto's past is the lens in which he views the world, and that he's convinced all humanity will do is round up mutants, put them in chains, and burn a number into their foreheads. And all the decisions he's making is ultimately to save mutants, which for me is what makes him such a compelling villain, because you really understand where he's coming from. You also learn that Charles is compassionate towards everyone, and that this is ultimately the weakness that Magneto exploits. Secondly, you learn just how incredibly powerful these men are, but in such different ways. Magneto can lift cars, grab dozens of guns at once, stop bullets, all with the flick of a wrist or the twitch of an eye. I just love Ian McKellen's acting here. That little eye twitch. You also learn that Charles, by simple thought, can control multiple people at once, speak through them, and meanwhile be safe and sound many yards away. I also just love how this scene is doing multiple things at once. It is both an intense, suspenseful action scene, while at the same time is an intimate conversation and debate between two old friends. And lastly, I just love how it's shot. I love how they cut between Charles and the people he is connected with. They show how his reactions mirror the other people's reactions, visually showing the audience how his powers work and how their minds are connected. Patrick Stewart also was some brilliant acting in this scene. They'll end up using this editing technique throughout the series, and I just love it every single time. So the scene ends with Magneto shooting a gun at an officer and stopping the bullet right at his forehead, and using that as a way to get away and get the upper hand with Charles. So yeah, it was at this scene, watching X-Men in 2011, 11 years after it came out, that I just thought, okay, wow, there are some super cool ideas and characters here, and the possibilities are very exciting for the future of the franchise. And I was in instantly. So yeah, that's why I always remember this scene so fondly in my mind, and how it played such a significant role in getting me personally hooked into the franchise, and ultimately why I think it is one excellent scene. Hope you guys liked the video. Thank you so much for watching, and if you enjoyed it, please give it a like by clicking the thumbs up, comment what you thought of this scene and what your favorite scene is from the X-Men movies, and don't forget to subscribe for more content like this. I'll catch you guys on the next one. Thanks.